Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? Check it out. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday. I almost said Monday. It ain't Monday. It's Tuesday. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday thus far. And hopefully I can get you some of this word and make it even better for you. So I was going to give it just a minute or so. See who all want to come in and part it with us. Now we just go ahead and get started. Actually, I'm probably going to clean my glass and go and get started. I got a little review to do anyway. Use hot water H2O. All right. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday. Again, how everybody doing today? I'm Brother John Stewart on behalf of the Lost Sheep Ministry, sponsored by River Lake Baptist Church. Here to bring you guys a message tonight, another message. We get back into the book of Samuel. I know we stepped away last week for a little bit. I had a special sermon. Well, I always like to call it a special sermon. I did in honor of my birthday celebration. Of course, like I told y'all, you guys, if you watched the video last week, I would like to take a week of just fasting and prayer, and at the end of that week, I just try to do a sermon, something that the Lord revealed to me over the week, or maybe revealed it previously, and I just kind of took the time that week to put it together, fast and pray on it and put it together. So that's what the message was last week. So now we get back to our message that we've been on. We've been going through the book of Samuel, slowly but surely, of course, going to a couple of verses here and there. And I know some of you are like, why is he taking so long just to get through this one book? And it's not that I'm taking so long. It's it's a Bible concept. It's talking about line upon line, precept upon precept. And that's what I wanted to do when I put this ministry together. When I started doing this video, this is how I want to do. I wanted to be in my own little space, my own little time frame, my own little space where I can do that. I can just go line upon line, precept upon precept. And I hope it's helping you guys. Again, I don't want to just bring some little snappy sermon that sounds good and all energetic and people not learning anything. When I do this, I want you to learn. I want you to know exactly what the Lord is wanting you to do. I want you to know what the word is saying. I want you to know, be able to understand these concepts that I'm going over so you can have a close relationship with the Lord in your life. So that's why I go a little slow. I take my own pace, and it's video. And I figure, it's a video. If you get tired of me, just cut it off, or you maybe watch a little bit here and a little bit there, however you want to do it. But however you want to do it is fine with me. I just pray that it's helping you. And I pray it's helping you, and I pray that you're getting some worth in these words. Of course, it's some worth in the word because it's come from the Lord, but I'm praying that I'm able to help you in a way that you can learn and have a close relationship with the Lord. So that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the review from last week, because again, last week we did a sermon. Even if y'all didn't see that sermon, go back and watch it, man. It was just a really good point to me. Again, one of my favorite stories in the Bible that I went over last week. The story of Daniel. So, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the book of Daniel. So if you didn't catch that last week, please go back and watch that. But this right here is going to be a continuation of the lesson the previous week. So, again, we're going to be, if you got your Bibles and you want to follow along, we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 12 is where we're at. And, the lesson has been called, Farewell to Remember. And kind of where it's going on, in case this is your first time watching, the first time catching this lesson. This is Samuel. He has served since he was a child. He served as Israel God, so to speak. He served as Israel's judge. He was the authority from God to guide them in the right direction. And they got to a point, because Israel never had a king, and they got to a point where they wanted to be like the world, which we do. We want to be like the world and live the way the world was living. And they end up telling Samuel they didn't want him to be their God any longer. They didn't want his sons to be God, which they had reason for the sons, because the sons was horrible. They were some wicked men, and they ended up being killed. No, that's not Sam. That was the Eli priest sons that was killed. But his sons was horrible. They was doing stuff they weren't supposed to be doing. So the people didn't want his son, so they said we want a king. Even though God had been their king and God had been their God, they wanted to be like the world. So Samuel, of course, he was upset when they initially asked him for a king, and the Lord told him go ahead and get him a king. And he told them to warn them of what's going to happen when they get that king. And then he also, so they did, and they anointed Saul. They ended up anointing Saul as king. So now that Saul is king, and he went through some things. At first, they kind of rejected Saul, and then he did some things. He rescued them from the enemies, and then they made it official that, okay, Saul is our king. So now at this point, Saul is officially king. The kingdom is in his hand. So Samuel's about to hand it over to Saul. So before he's leaving, he's just addressing the nation, and it's basically his farewell address. So he's going through some things as he got his farewell speech, basically saying goodbye. He's reminding them of some things, and he's teaching them some concepts that they need to remember so that they can continue to have the grace of God in their life. So that's why I call it a farewell to remember. And you'll notice each point I always start with don't forget, because these are things we need to remember as we try to work on our walk with God, as we try to have a relationship with the Lord, as we try to get closer to the Lord. If you remember these things, it'll help you have a good, safe, close relationship with the Lord. So tonight we're going to start on point number 13. But last week we covered point number 10, number 11, number 12. So real quick, just number 10 from the week, I said last week, the week before, the lesson the week before says, don't forget to put God on the throne of your life. Decide by whose standards you're going to live by, and decide whose standard you're going to live by. You're going to live by the world standards, or you're going to live by God's standards. So that's what we talked about last week. Don't forget to put God on the throne. In other words, make God, when it comes down to it, when you got something you need to do or you want to do, are you going to go with what the world say is okay, or are you going to go with what God says is okay? You know what I'm saying? Make that decision, and you need to make that decision beforehand, because if you just try to get into the situation to make the decision, 9 times out of 10, you're going to do what the world say do, because you're going to want to be influenced by the world. But, make the decision to put God on the throne of your life. Make sure with everything you do, every decision you make, is all in accordance with the word that God has given us, and the guidance he's given us, and doing the things we know he wants us to do, and staying away from things we know he don't want us to do. So that was number 10 from the previous lesson. Don't forget to put God on the throne of your life. Then we had another a reference. Remember, you get what you ask for. We had a reference back there over there as well, down there around verse 12. Is what that reference was at. 1 Samuel chapter 12, verse 12. Remember, you get what you ask for. So remember, I talked about how the way you live your life, the things you do, and that's actually will come up a little bit tonight. The way you live your life and the things you do is going to bring in certain things in your life. So you got to remember, you get what you ask for. Then number 11 from the previous lesson, don't forget to fear the Lord. Don't forget to fear the Lord. And when I talked about fear the Lord, it's not a fear like a quaking fear, like you just afraid that the Lord is going to hit you with a lightning bolt because you had a bad thought or you did some bad things. No, I talked about as fear. It means to be afraid in the sense of what it's talking about in the Bible when it says fear the Lord. It's a reverence. Have reverence for God. You know what I'm saying? Have enough love and respect for God. You don't do the things that you're not supposed to do because you love God so much and you reverence him so much that you don't want to disappoint him. And I think I told y'all, I'm pretty sure I told y'all the story when I got caught stealing. Actually, that story going to come up again tonight. I didn't realize that, but because it was a couple of weeks ago. But I talked about, how when I was little, I used to steal all the time, and I ended up getting caught stealing. And I was so disappointed. It wasn't even about the fact that I went to juvenile, none of that. It was the fact that I knew that I wouldn't have to face my grandmother. My grandmother had such high hopes for me. And, I was the favorite of the grandkids. I think it's safe for me to say that. I was the favorite of the grandkids, and she had such high hopes for me. So for me to get caught stealing and going to juvenile, I just knew how disappointed she was going to be. And, so that's what I was more afraid of, and more I was more worried about than anything was how I was going to how I disappointed my grandmother because I did that thing. And that's what it's talking about when it's talking about fear the Lord. It's not talking about cowering and fear and worried about, making mistakes and God hitting you with a lightning bolt because you made a mistake. No, it's talking about having a fear that, you're going to do something that's going to bring shame upon his face, or you're going to do something that's out of his will, that's going to take you down a path that you don't need to go. That's what it's talking about when it says fear the Lord. Have a true fear of the Lord. And of course, we know the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, which is also something we're going to talk about tonight. So that was the last, that was number 11 from the last lesson. Don't forget to fear the Lord. And again, I talked about there's two types of fear. And there's a fear of being afraid, like you quaking in your boots because you're scared God's going to do something to you because you messed up. But there's a healthy fear, a good fear. In other words, you have just such reverence for God that you're not going to do anything or live your life in a way that's going to displease him, because you want to please him because of what he's done for you. So that's what we talked about. And so again, that was the previous lesson, number 11. And then the last point that we went over from the previous lesson was number 12 in the lesson overall. And it says, don't forget to listen to God when he speaks. Don't forget to listen to God when he speaks. A lot of times we always say God don't speak to us, or we're praying for God to speak to us, and then God do speak to us and we don't listen. And a lot of times we don't listen because we can't hear him when he speaks. And I will tell you, if you don't have a close walk with God, if you're not walking with God every day, if you're not praying every day, if you're not reading your Bible every day, if you're not looking for opportunity to help people every day, it's going to be hard for you to have a close enough relationship with them to where you can realize. Sometimes it's very obvious, but sometimes it's subtle. You know what I'm saying? You won't see the little subtle nuance. You won't see the little subtle things that God is doing in your life if you don't have that close walk with him, because you're not really looking for it. So that was number 12. Don't forget to listen to God when he speaks. That's one of the keys of staying in his perfect will. We actually going to go over one of the most important keys to staying in his will tonight. We're going to go over, that's going to be one of our points tonight. But one of the main keys is being able to listen to God when he speaks. When he tell you to go, you go. When he tell you to stay, you stay. If he tell you to jump, you say how high on the way up. You know what I'm saying? But listen to him. Make sure you listen to him. Don't pray and ask God to reveal something to you. Don't pray to ask God to say something to you or show you something, and then he shows it, and then you ignore it because it's not what you want to hear, and which is a lot of times what we end up doing. It's not what we want to hear. He's telling us to go where we didn't want to go. He's telling us to do what we didn't want to do, so we just don't listen to him. So you got to be sure, don't forget to listen to God when he speaks. So, excuse me. So that's where we finished up on the previous lesson. Was number 12. So tonight we're gonna start on we're gonna be on point number 13. It'll be the first point of the night. We're gonna be point number 13, and we're gonna find it right there in the second part of verse number 14. So if you got your Bibles again, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 12, verse 14 is where we're gonna start off tonight. And I'm gonna go ahead and pray, and we're gonna jump into this. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to come here and bring your word tonight, Lord. I know it's not my normal night, and I know there's a few people that's upset with me because I didn't do it last night, and jokingly. I thank you for giving the opportunity to do it tonight. I just had too much going on to really be able to focus on the word yesterday and to be able to really bring the people a good message. And I thought tonight will be a better opportunity to do so, which is why I moved to tonight. So I just pray that you be with everybody. Pray they've had a great, wonderful day. And now the ones that are here are ready to hear your word, Lord. They're ready to hear a word from you that will help them build a relationship with you, or get closer in a relationship with you, or maybe even start a relationship with you. Help them see how important it is that they haven't done so. But either way, Lord, I just pray your spirit work through me, Lord. Give me the wisdom that I need to bring these words and these truths forward, Lord. And I pray your spirit work on their hearts as well, and get them the wisdom, be willing to accept these words into their heart. And so it can go down to the soul of their heart, and it might grow and sprout. It might be watered, and it might grow, and it might sprout into something that's productive, Lord, and they can be productive with their life, productive for your kingdom, and do the work that you have for them to do, Lord. And of course, that's our goal whenever we do this together. My goal is not to get views. My goal is not to just grow this ministry just so I can say I'm something. My goal is always to help people get closer in their relationship with you. And I pray that it be accomplished tonight through this time we spend in your word and these words that are spoken. So I pray you be with us all as we go through this, Lord, so that we may end this session tonight having a closer relationship with you than we did before we started. We love you so very much. Thank you for all you've done and given. And I say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Yeah, I forgot to apologize, y'all. I apologize for not doing it last night. I do, but some of y'all know what I do. I do like environmental work. I'm a chemist too, but I move more into the environmental field. So I have a lot of stuff that I have to do that have in government or sanctions. And, I mean, well, not sanctions, but regulations and rules. And they have all kind of deadlines and things that have the times that things have to be in, and it has to be in on time, or you can get all kind of penalties and sanctions. So I had some stuff that I had to get done last night. And last night was like the last moment. It ain't the last, not due to Wednesday, but it's some work involved before it's finalized, so it can be done by Wednesday. So I had to get it done last night. So that's why I moved it last night, y'all. And I do apologize. I hope it didn't throw y'all off, throw y'all schedule off. I know it threw me off a little bit, so I'm going to try to make this short tonight. I ain't going to make no promise. I'm going to try to make it short tonight. I didn't write as much down as I normally would to elaborate on these points. I'm not just, cutting you guys off or just being short with you. It's just I want to know, I know this is not our normal scheduled time, so I want to hold you too long. But at the same time, don't hold me to that. I ain't making no promises. I'm going to try to do what I can do, but I'm going to let the Lord lead this along the way. So again, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 12. We'll start over, and we was already did a couple of them. Matter of fact, the last 3 points, 2 points that we covered came out of this verse 14. And if y'all watched the previous lesson on this that happened a couple of weeks ago, y'all remember I was telling you this verse. I mean, it got 4 different points from this one little verse. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the points from this lesson is coming from this one little verse right here. It's so much in it that when you really unpack what he's saying is really deep. And that's why the last lesson was on this chapter verse 14 and 15. And tonight's most likely going to end in 14 and 15 as well, because there's just so much to unpack there. And I didn't want to just skim over it because there was too many good pieces of advice that he was giving us, things that we need to remember so we can have that close walk with God. So, of course, before we get started, let's get my disclaimer. I believe in the King James Version of the Bible. That's what I read. I'm not being a heretic, but my ministry is Lost Sheep Ministry. It's for people that don't always go to school or have an education or have a close relationship with the Lord yet. So I want to make sure I read the New Living Translation so they can understand what's being said. That's why I read out the New Living Translation, but I do believe wholeheartedly in the King James Bible. But for my ministry, we use this New Living Translation, so I don't have to explain everything because y'all already know I likes to talk, so to speak. So again, with that being said, we're going to start over here in verse 14. I'm going to read the first part of it that we've already covered, and then I'm going to get to our new point for the night. So verse 14, the Lord tells us this, is now if you would fear and worship the Lord, and that's what, that's why I came from point number 11. Don't forget to fear the Lord, and then listen to his voice. And that was point number 12, where I talked about make sure you listen to the Lord when he speaks to him. And then he says this, the second half is going to be our first point for the night. He's saying, and if you do not rebel against the Lord's commands, if you said so, he said, now if you will fear and worship the Lord. So basically, he's giving them, like I said, he's giving them the recipe for success. He's telling them what they need to do to have a successful relationship, a successful life, to have a prosperous life. He's giving them this recipe. That's why I said I want to really focus on this verses 14 and 15, because he's giving them a lot. He's giving them a recipe on what they need to be doing so they can have a close relationship with the Lord. So again, he says, now, if you fear and worship the Lord and listen to his voice, and if you do not rebel against the Lord's command. So I'm going to stop right there because that's going to be point number 13. So point number 13, and this is the first point for the night, but number 13 in lesson overall. And this is what I told you earlier. This right here is the key to success in his life. It's the main key. Like he's given us several different keys to success. I appreciate you being here, Miss T. I'm glad you made it in tonight. I know it ain't on my normal night, so I appreciate you being here. And everybody else that's here as well. So number 13, this is one, and y'all have heard me actually preach on this before. I've done whole lessons on this, but it came up again tonight. And just a little tidbit, a little bit side note, a tidbit. Whenever the Lord mentions something in the Bible, whenever everything that's in the Bible is important. No, don't get me wrong. I ain't saying there's one line that's more important. Everything in the Bible is important. But when something is mentioned more than once, that lets you know it's really important. Matter of fact, the more times it's mentioned, the more important that thing is. And this one right here is mentioned several times. I didn't do the research to find out how many times, but it's several times that this thing right here is mentioned in the Bible. And it is number 13, don't forget to be obedient to God's commands. How many times have you read through the Bible and he said, to obey my command? Make sure you obey my commands. Make sure you obey my commands. I mean, it's constant standard. If you don't go away from my commands, if you obey my commands, then these things will happen. If you obey my commands, I will give you this. Why? Because that's the key to success. You know what I'm saying? I cannot stress that enough. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to belabor this point because I know I preached on it several times before, but it came up again here. But at the same time, it's very important. Like I've done whole lessons, I think months back. You have to go back and check my YouTube or my Facebook. But I remember one time I did like a 3-part series on the importance of obedience. You know what I'm saying? Being obedient is so important. I'm going to try to bring that out again tonight without belaboring too much. But again, that is the key to success in this life. If you want to have a successful life, the key to success in this life is being obedient to God's command, doing the thing that God is telling you to do. Because the reason why that's so important, the reason why you have success, because y'all heard me say before, you will never be successful outside the will of God. You're not going to be successful. You'll never be successful outside the will of God, and you'll never fail inside the will of God. You got to understand that. But this goes, being obedient to His command, it goes hand in hand with being able to follow His will. You can't follow His will if you can't be obedient. And understand this too. And this is where a lot of us kind of mess up. This is where a lot of us go astray when we're dealing with obedience. You know, being obedient is not doing what God says, doing what God's saying, tell you to do or command you to do, but doing it your own way. That's not being obedient. That's just as bad as just not doing it. You know what I'm saying? That's what a lot of us want to do. We want to do what God say do it, but we're going to do it our way. We're not going to do it the way God said. And you got to understand, God is very opinionated. He's very technical. He's very specific. There's a lot of things in here where He said to do it. He said to do it a certain way. And He said to do it, certain people were supposed to be doing it. You know what I'm saying? So if you like, oh, I'm doing it, God, you know what I'm saying? Then we get the attitude, well, I'm doing it, God. You should be happy I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? That's not it. You know what I'm saying? That's not it. You want to do it, you got to do it the right way. Like the other day, my son cut the grass. And he wasn't being disobedient, but he cut the grass. And when he got done, it looked horrible. It looked like my yard had cornrows. You know what I'm saying? So a buddy of mine, he messaged me like, man, what you doing? I said, oh, man, I'm about to cut the grass. I have to catch you later. He's like, man, you got all these kids in your house. Why are you cutting your own grass? It's like, because I wanted it a certain way. You know, so I want my grass to look a certain way. And though my kids are willing to do it, they're not willing to do it. They don't have the skills to do it the way I would do it. So I just rather do it myself. You see what I'm saying? I want it to be a certain way. And that's how God is. When God gives us a command, you know what I'm saying? When He tells us to do something. What up, boy? What up, JB? Appreciate you being here, bro. There's my brother there from way back in the day before the Lost Sheep Ministry days. This was my boys there, man. He was there with me in the beginning. I appreciate you being here, my boy. So again, when God tells us to do something, He wants us to do it the way He say do it. So again, you think you're getting somewhere because you're doing it, but you're doing it your own way and you're not. You know, it's like my preacher told the story. One day was this kid, and you know what I'm saying, his mama was telling him to sit down, and she kept on getting, boy, sit down. And he just, kept on standing up, sit down, He just kept on standing back. So finally, my mom came over there, and she spanked that butt. She got on him, and she spanked that butt. So he sat down, he folded his arm up. He said, I'm sitting down on the outside, but I'm standing up on the inside. You know what I'm saying? And that's most of our attitude toward God. You know what I'm saying? I obey you on the outside, but on the inside, I'm still want to do what I want to do. My heart is still doing the things that I want to do. It's not about doing the things that you want me to do. And that's not being obedient. When I talk about being obedient, I'm talking about complete obedience. You know what I'm saying? Complete obedience. Because again, God gives us specific details on how to do things. If y'all remember a few weeks back, I did a podcast for the first time. I had such a great time. I know one of the ladies, she used to watch me on a regular basis. So, Miss Renee, if you're watching, I appreciate you being here. But man, I did a podcast with these ladies, and then, and I'm bringing this made me think about that. And we was talking about being submissive. You know what I'm saying? And of course, that's a touchy subject. Especially with ladies. So at first I felt it was a little set up because it was two ladies talking about, and I'm talking to them about how they supposed to be submissive. But of course they had some questions. They weren't coming at it from an angry standpoint, but they was coming up and trying to really understand, what it really means to be submissive according to the Bible kind of thing. And the one young lady, she was telling me a story of she had just met this guy. And, and he basically had, she was talking on the phone and somebody, I think her phone was about to die or something. And she told the guy, well, look, man, my phone about to die. I'll call you back tomorrow. And he was like, well, she was like, well, why don't you just put on the charger? And she was like, no, it's it's downstairs and I'm already in the bed. I don't feel like getting up and get it. And he like, basically like, well, you're not going to be obedient to me, submissive to me, and go get the charger so you can continue to talk to me like I told you to. And she was like, oh, heck no. You know what I'm saying? And I told her, she's like, so what about that? And, and they talked about how a lot of men do bring up where the Bible says submissive, be submissive, the Bible say be submissive. And it does. But again, the devil is in the details, so to speak. No pun intended. You know what I'm saying? Yes, the Bible says be submissive. And this is what I share with the young ladies. I said, yes, the Bible says be submissive to your husband. But what does it say? It says be submissive. Matter of fact, it says wives be submissive to your husband. So you see, it was talking about a specific group of people. It wasn't talking about all women supposed to be submissive to all men. That's not what God said. He said, wives be submissive. Matter of fact, it says, wives be submissive to your own husband. So it don't even mean to be submissive like, well, I'm submissive to me, he's the husband. No, you a side chick. That ain't your husband. That's some other woman's husband. You see what I'm saying? You his side chick. It ain't even talking about that. It says, wives be submissive to your own husbands. See what I'm saying? So a lot of people out here trying to tell women they need to be submissive when they ain't married to these women. There's only two people in the Bible that the Lord commands women to be submissive to. And it's your father, if you're still living in his house, be submissive to your father, or your husband once you moved out and got married, if you got married, which is another thing. That's a whole nother subject, because most people don't even do that anymore. We just hook up and move in and hook up without marriage, which is another thing, not obeying God's commands. So again, you got to understand, when God gives us a command, when he tells us to do something, he not only tells us to do that thing, he tells us how he wants us to do that thing. He'll tell us who we want to do that thing with. So if you do it outside of any leave out any little detail, then guess what? You're not really being obedient. And that's what we have to understand. We're not being obedient. Oh, well, he should be lucky I'm doing this. No, that's not obedience. If God say do it, like I said, he said, wives, be submissive to your own husband. So he's not saying be submissive. And that's why the point I made to them, if y'all watched me, y'all heard me, but he didn't say, girlfriends, be submissive to your baby daddies. He didn't say girlfriends, be submissive to your boyfriends. He didn't say, girl, be submissive with the dude you're shacking up with. He said, wives, be submissive to your own husband. Specific. He was specific. And that's what you got to understand. God is specific in the things that he tell you to do. And there's a reason for that. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason for that. And if you don't do it the way you tell them to do, then guess what? You're flirting with disaster. You're flirting with rebellion if you're not doing it the things that God tell you to do the way you want to do it. And we see that in Saul. This is at the beginning of Saul's reign when he just became king. But this is a story I'm not going to really get deep into it because it's going to come up here whenever we eventually get over to, I think it's 1 Samuel chapter 16. But we're going to see Saul end up, even though he was the first king, his reign didn't last very long and he didn't do very good because he didn't do it the way God told him to do it. There was a situation arose where God told Saul there was this group of people called Amalekites. And when Israel had first came out of Egypt, and they was on their way to the promised land, these Amalekites came out and attacked them while they was basically weak. You know what I'm saying? And God had swore that he was going to get his revenge on the Amalekites one day. So now that he had his king Saul, he told Saul, hey, go and destroy the Amalekites. He said, I want you to kill everybody. Everybody, and I want you to burn everything. He said, don't take none of the plunder. Don't leave none of the people alive. I want you to go kill everybody and destroy everything. You know what I'm saying? So what did Saul do? He went out, he killed everybody except the king. You see what I'm saying? It was only one person left alive, but still it was the one person left alive. God said kill everybody. So he killed everybody except the king. You know what I'm saying? He burned and destroyed everything else except the best of the sheep, the best of the cows, and the best of the flocks. You see what I'm saying? So he went out and did it, so to speak, but he didn't do exactly what God told him to do. And the reason why we know that is because when Samuel showed up, this was because Samuel was still alive, actually. And when Samuel showed up, he got on like, oh, did God not tell you to kill everybody and destroy everything? He's like, well, I did do that. Then Samuel said, well, what's the bleating of sheep? Why do I hear all this cattle? Y'all didn't have cattle before y'all went off to the war. Why do all of a sudden I'm hearing all this cattle? I'm hearing this sheep. Oh man, you know what? Man, we got over there. We saw, man, it was too good to destroy. We just kept the best. We destroyed all the other stuff, but we kept the best one, and we did it so we can sacrifice to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you try to do, blame on God. And then the king, oh, that was my brother. So he was the only one left. What's the point of killing him? You see what I'm saying? Because God told him to do it. So what did Samuel do? Samuel got on him. Samuel got on, and that was the same matter of fact. Samuel told him, because you've done this thing, the Lord is going to rip the kingdom out of your hand. Now, had Saul been obedient, he would have had a person sitting on the throne. He would have had a son or a relative or somebody from his heritage sit on the throne for years and years and generations to come. But guess what? Instead of doing the things that God told him to do the way God told him to do it, he did it his own way. And he got the kingdom ripped out of his hand, and that's how David ended up becoming king. You see what I'm saying? God has specific ways he's going to do it. You're not being obedient if you just half-hearted doing it, or you're just doing it, but you're doing it your way. That's not obedience. And that's what I'm talking about. When I say don't forget to be obedient to his command, I'm talking about complete obedience. You know what I'm saying? Doing what he told you to do, the way he told you to do it, with the people he told you to do it with. Because if not, you're flirting with rebellion. You're flirting with disaster. You're going to bring Saul didn't even make it through the first part of his reign before his kingship was taken from him and given to David. Now, he still remained king for quite some time before David actually became king, because David had to, come up through the ranks, so to speak, and he had to get the training he needed before the Lord finally put him on the throne. But he was going to have somebody, he knew the Lord had already told Saul there was not going to be anybody to succeed him. Why? Because he wasn't obedient. You see what I'm saying? So obedience is the key to success. And that's how David became king. And David had a situation where he wasn't obedient and some people got hurt because of it. And of course, now I'm talking about Bathsheba. We all know about Bathsheba. Everybody always want to bring up the sin of David. But David, if you look at David, David was one of the greatest kings of Israel. Matter of fact, if you look, every king after David is compared. David is like the standard. Whenever any king of Judah came up, it was always this person was pleasing in the eyes of the Lord, but not like David. David was the standard, and there was only one king that actually, I think it was only one king that I remember where it said that he did it just like David, and that was King Hezekiah. And actually, it says King Hezekiah. Faithfulness to the Lord was so strong, and he was so faithful that he actually, the way it's worded, the way I read it, the way I interpret it, it said he was actually better than David, because it said there was no king as great as him before or after him. And David was before him, so it had to be talking about David as well. You see what I'm saying? So he was one of the greatest kings ever according to the Bible. And it was all because he was obedient to the word of God. Same with David. David was always obedient. If you look at whenever David got ready to go off the war, any decision that David made, he always went to God first. Matter of fact, it was one time God told him to go off the war, and I can't remember who he was fighting. He was fighting somebody, and they actually got their butt kicked that day. And so David went back to the Lord like, Lord, you sure? I know you said do this and it ain't look good. I just want to make sure you sure. Do I need to go out again? And the Lord said, yes, go out again. But this time set up an ambush, and the Lord told him what he needed to do to get the victory. And once again, he went out, did exactly what the Lord told him to do. He got the victory. See, because he knew he had to be obedient. But he had a situation where he wasn't, and the situation that was one time, Israel had got away from the Lord, of course, and y'all saw that through the book of Judges and Samuel. They had got away from the Lord, and they ended up, because of that, they was conquered by the Philistines, and they was always being conquered. They was always going through problems, and at some point, they ended up losing the Ark of the Covenant of God. Now, we've already covered this story, but again, the Lord ended up bringing it back, but it wasn't in Jerusalem where it was supposed to be. So after David came in, he got established. He built he ended up building he didn't build the temple. Solomon built the temple, but he built like a tent, a place for built a place for the ark to rest until the temple was built, so to speak. So so he wanted to bring, I believe it was in the home of this guy named Obed-Edom. So he wanted to bring the ark of God back into Jerusalem where it's supposed to be, and Judah where it's supposed to be. So what they did was they built some carts, and they had some some cows or something drawing the cart, and they went and they grabbed the ark and they put it on there. They was toting the ark along on the cart. Now when you hear that, you're like, well, that's a good thing. He was bringing God back to Jerusalem. It was a good thing, But guess what happened? While they was bringing the ark along on his cart, one of the animals stumbled. And when he stumbled, the ark almost fell off the cart. So one of the priests that was kind of standing behind it, he just put his hand up there to make sure it didn't fall, because you didn't want the ark of God to fall. So he put his hand up there so it wouldn't fall. And guess what happened? Fire flashed out and killed him, burned him to death because he touched the ark. So then David got upset. And he was like, man, why would God do that? If you read this, David actually got upset with God a little bit because he's like, why did God do that? We trying to do something good for you, God. We trying to do something for you. But guess what? He didn't do it the way God wanted him to do it, because sometime later he actually went back and got the ark. But at some point between when that situation happened and when he really was able to bring the ark into Jerusalem, he must have got in his Bible and read his Bible. Because you read in the Bible, when the Lord was talking about when he gave him the design of the ark, he said that whenever the ark is moved, whenever the ark is moved from one place to another, it's supposed to be on the shoulders of the Levites. See, it wasn't supposed to be on no cart. I don't care how nice that cart was. It wasn't supposed to be on no cart drawn by no animals. No, there was a special poles that was made. There was rings on the side of the Ark of the Covenant, and these poles went into these rings, and they were supposed to put these poles in these rings and carry this ark on their shoulders. You know what I'm saying? And so when David was carrying, again, he sound good. I'm trying to bring the ark of God. I done built this little place for it. It sounds good. I done built this place for it, and I want to bring it home. Sounds good, but it's still not one. The intentions were good, but he wasn't being obedient. And because he wasn't being obedient, because instead of having them carry on their shoulders, he had on his cart. These two guys ended up losing. I can't remember both of them died or just one of them. I think no, it was just Uzzah. It was Uzzah died. So it was the one that actually put his hand up to steady the ark. He died. Why? Because it wasn't being done the way it was supposed to be done. See, again, the Lord gives us specific instructions on how to do certain things. He tells us who to do it with, how to do it, and where to do it. You know what I'm saying? Where to do it. He gives us specific instruction. And if you're doing anything outside of those instructions he gave us, then guess what? You're not being obedient. And that's why a lot of times we have a destruction coming in our life. If I go to church, you know what I'm saying? I go to church. I throw a Bible quote out here now and again. I post a Bible verse on my Facebook, but it say not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together. You should be in church every time the doors of the church open, whatever church you're involved in. You know what I'm saying? You should be out there. It says when Jesus went into when he ascended into heaven, as he left, he said to go out to the highways and hedges and compel them to come in. You see what I'm saying? So yes, you're doing some of the stuff that God said do by going to church and reading your Bible and praying every now and again, but you're not doing exactly how he said to do it. And that's why you don't see that grace and that mercy in your life. And a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, and you have to think about another one that he was saying. We look at Abraham. When Abraham, we commanded Abraham to kill his son Isaac. Abraham, first he made Abraham a promise that his inheritance and all these blessings that God had promised him was going to come through this son, and then he tell him to go kill his son. You know what I'm saying? And what did Abraham do? Marched up the hill. He was about to kill him. And God had to stop him. Like, whoa, Abraham, whoa, man, I'm just testing you. And it says that if you read the Bible, it says he believed God and the Lord counted it to him. I'm misquoting it. But he believed God and the Lord accounted to him for righteousness. See, he was righteous in the eyes of God because he was willing to obey the command, even though it was extreme. Even though you think he understood, you know what I'm saying? You think he understood why the Lord would give him this son, make all these promises about this son, then tell him to kill his son? No, he didn't understand that, but the Lord told him to do it, so he was doing it. He was being obedient. And that's what you got to understand. You got to understand that you're not going to understand. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to understand everything, all the commands. You're not going to understand why, you're not going to always understand. Like, we can understand a little bit if you got any kind of wisdom understanding, but we don't understand why God say don't have sex before marriage, or, you know what I'm saying, don't do this, don't do that. A lot of stuff the Bible say don't do, we don't understand why God say don't do it, but it's not for us to understand. It's for us to obey it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like most of us have kids. I know most of the people on here have kids. Your kids don't always understand why you make them go to bed at a certain time, or why they have to go to school. My kids don't always understand why I'm so adamant about them going to church. They don't always understand. But if they just be obedient and listen, then guess what? When they grow up to be adults, they'll be good, functioning, productive adults if they just do what we tell them to do. And that's how it is with God. You're not going to always understand why God say do certain things. You're not going to always understand the commandments that God gives. You're not, and the thing is, you're not meant to understand it. You're not supposed to understand it. You're just supposed to obey it. And that's what Abraham did. He didn't understand it. He didn't understand why the Lord would tell him, but he obeyed him, and it said it counted him for righteousness. And look what he got because he obeyed the commandments of God. Look at the success he had because he obeyed those commandments. You know what I'm saying? It's just like when one of the conversations I often get into when I'm talking to people about God, and they say they don't serve God, they don't believe in God or want to serve God. Because I've actually heard this true story. People say, I don't serve a God because he's a homicidal maniac. You know what I'm saying? I can't serve a God like that. And what they're referring to, if you look at when the Israelites first came into the promised land, when Joshua was leading them into the promised land, everywhere they went, everywhere they conquered, they were supposed to kill everybody and destroy everything. There were certain things that they would keep back to dedicate to the Lord, like precious metal, things that you can honestly put through a fire and purify. They was able to keep those things, but all the people and stuff, they had to go. You know what I'm saying? He said everybody, men, women, children, old people, it didn't matter. Everybody had to die. So when you hear something like that, that sounds bad. It sounds bad. You're like, man, even the kids, you know what I'm saying? You got to kill the kids. So you wouldn't understand why God would tell you, command the people to go out and kill kids and things like that. You know, so we don't understand it. Now, because we have the word, we understand it now, but I'm pretty sure the Israelites, when they first heard that, they didn't understand why he would tell them to go out there and basically commit genocide the way he said. It sounds horrible. He wouldn't understand it, but you got to understand, God thinking is so much better than ours. God sees things better than we can see things. And because we have the word, we understand now the reason why God was saying do those things is because he was purging the land. He knew that if he left any of those elements behind from the previous people that occupied the land, then the Israelites are going to be corrupted by it. You know what I'm saying? We feel sorry for these people, but you got to understand the kind of stuff these people was doing. They was worshiping devils. You know what I'm saying? They was having all kind of sexual orgies. They was killing their kids, sacrificing their kids on the altars to devils. I mean, they was doing some horrible stuff, having sex with animals. You know what I mean? They were doing some horrible stuff. It was homosexuality was rampant in those, which we know God says is an abomination. They were doing some horrible things, and that's why the Lord said, because he knew, because that's what what's they saying. Everybody know the saying. I know everybody heard the saying before. What to say? One bad apple can spoil a bunch. See, the Lord knew that. So he was trying to make sure there was no bad apples around to spoil a bunch. And again, because we had a word, we know that's why he said they go in there and kill everybody, everything. Because what happened when the Israelites went in and they didn't destroy everybody and destroy everybody like the Lord said, they left some people behind, and instead of killing them, made them slaves. What ended up happening on down, and now it took a few years, but what ended up happening, those people that they left behind ended up being an influence on the Israelites and convinced them to start worshiping idols instead of worshiping God. And over the period of time, what they do, the Israelites got so far away from God that God ended up kicking them out of land and put them into captivity. See, all that could have been avoided had they just did what they supposed to be doing in the first place and completely, killed everybody just like they supposed to. How you doing, Miss Sonia? Glad you're here tonight. I appreciate you being here. Hope everything's going good with you guys. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happened. See, had they obeyed the commands of the Lord in the beginning and destroyed everybody and everything like the Lord said, they never would have ended up running to that problem. So that's what you got to understand. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to always understand why God tells us to do things. We're not going to always stand the commands he give us. We're not going to always stand why he give us certain commands. But it's not for us to understand. It's for us to just obey him. You know, I was talking to a brother the other day that I just met recently. Good dude. You know what I'm saying? We've been talking back and forth for the last few weeks. And he was talking on the lesson that I did last week. And he was just, because the lesson was on faith. And he just, he said, man, yeah, he said, I appreciate what you were saying. He said, I guess it's just hard for me because I don't always understand God's plan. And that's what, the same thing I said, man, you're not supposed to understand. I said, that's where your faith come in. You're not supposed to understand it because you think about it, and this is the point that I made to him. Like, you think about it, would you really want to serve a God that you understood everything that he did? You understood the reason why he did everything he did. Would you really want to serve a God like that? Because if that's the case, if you can understand everything that God does and why God do it, then guess what? That means God is no smarter than you. You know what I'm saying? If I can understand every single thing God has for me to do, every single thing that God wants me to do, if I can understand it, that means God is no smarter than me. And I'm going to tell y'all something. Y'all don't want me to be in control of all the creation. I can guarantee you that I'm not smart enough to be in control of all creation like he is. But he is. He has to. His wisdom is infinitely greater than ours. His love is infinitely greater than ours. So when he tells us something, you got to understand everything he tells us is out of love. You know what I'm saying? Out of love. How you doing, Miss Tanya? It's all good. Better late than never. I cannot speak on being late because I'm always late. So I just appreciate you being here tonight. But again, you got to understand, man, everything God tells us is out of love. And not all out of love, out of his infinite wisdom. He knows how, if we do this thing, how it's going to affect us down the road. You know what I'm saying? Because we'll do it like, well, that wasn't as bad. I don't know why God is so uptight about it. That wasn't so bad. But God can see way into the future. He can see, like, again, when he told them to go in and kill everybody, destroy everything, he knew that he let any of that behind, that the Israelites were going to pick up those bad habits and start worshiping idols and turn their back against him. And they didn't destroy everybody. They didn't kill everything. And guess what? That's exactly what ended up happening. Those people had an influence on the Israelites, and they ended up pulling them away from the Lord. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand, you know, this is another thing you got to understand too. If the only reason that you are obeying a command is because you understand it, then guess what? That's not obedience. That's not obedience. If the only reason you are willing to follow a command or do a command is because you understand it, then that is not obedience. And that's what you got to understand. That is not obedience. And you don't really have faith. Matter of fact, if the only reason why you do something is because you understand it, then that's straight rebellion. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if y'all was raised like I was raised, but you know what I'm saying? My grandma says do something. You don't be like, why? You didn't ask her why. You know, she just did it. You know, if God tell you to do something, why? Why, God? Why you want me to do that? That's rebellion. That's rebellion. And when you go down there, that road of rebellion, we start rebelling. Like I said, if you're not following God's command and doing exactly what he said to do, the way he said to do it, that's rebellion. And who was the first rebel? Who was the very first rebel? Lucifer. See what I'm saying? Lucifer was the first rebel. That's why he became who he was, because he rebelled against God. He was the first rebel because he didn't understand God's plan. Now, I don't know this for sure. This is not biblical. I will tell y'all, I haven't researched it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm tell y'all straight up front. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it said, and any of y'all that's been in the Bible or church or anything long enough, you probably heard the same story. But from what I understand, the reason why Lucifer rebelled against God is because he was jealous of the freedom that God had gave the humans. He felt that God should force us to worship him. But that's not what God wanted to do. He wanted us to worship him out of love, out of that fear I was talking about from the previous lesson. That's why he wanted, that's what he wanted. He wanted to give us the free will so we would worship him out of love and not out of force. And the devil felt that we should be forced because, and honestly, and this is going to sound weird, but understandably so. You know what I'm saying? If you wise enough, your eyes are open enough to see just how much God has done for us and just how much God do for us. If you wise enough to see, I can understand why he felt like, because he knew everything that God was doing for us. He knew how good that we had it. You know what I'm saying? Even though we don't know it or don't always recognize it, he knew. And he like, man, and so that would be like, man, as good as you are to them, as much you're doing for them, they should be forced to worship you. And God like, no. I love them. I want them to do it because they love me. You know what I'm saying? They should be able to see my hand upon their line. They should be able to see my goodness. And I want them to do it because they love me. And they're like, no, you should be doing it. You should force them to do it. And it was a big, kerfuffle or whatnot. And of course, he ended up rebelling and taking a third of the angels with him. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because he didn't see God's plan and he didn't understand, he didn't understand God's plan. And again, God is way more infinite than all of us. So when he gives us these commands, when he tells us to do stuff, it's not that you shouldn't have to understand it to do it. If you know it's coming from God, first of all, let me say that. Don't just say, well, my heart said. If you know it's come from God, if you know God is saying to do this or to not do that, or to do this or do that, or not do this or do that, and you know that's coming from God, then he should have to explain himself why he said it. You should just be obedient to it. And the reason why I take so much time on obedience, the reason why I'm always talking about obedience, because you got to understand why obedience is so important. You know, like I just told you before I started getting to the point, first of all, obedience is the key to success in this life. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to be obedient, successful if you're not obedient to the word of God. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be hard for you to be there. Matter of fact, Joshua, I'm going to read you something, and I'm sure you what I'm talking about. Joshua. He's talking about obedience. Over in Joshua chapter 1, verses 6 through 8. Watch what it says. It said, He's talking to Joshua. They getting ready to go into the promised land. This is right before they get ready to go to the promised land. They get ready to go conquer. He told them this. He said, be strong and courageous, for you will lead my people to possess all the land I swore to give their ancestors. So be strong and very courageous. And here you go. Obey all the laws. Be obedient to all the laws Moses gave you, and do not turn away from them, and you will be successful in everything you do. Study this book of the law continually. Meditate on it day and night, so you may be sure to obey. There you go again, twice in one little paragraph. Be sure to obey all that is written in it, and here you go. Only then will you succeed. And of course, I actually like the King James. I'm gonna read the King James. The King James version a little bit better. It says, the wording of it. He said, only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law, which Moses my servant commanded thee. So again, the commands, the obedience to the commands. And then he says, turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whatsoever thou goest. So when it's saying don't turn from the right hand or left, in other words, do it and do it exactly how I said to do it. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, complete obedience, not just doing it and you doing it your own way. Do it and do it the way I told you to do it. That's complete obedience. Then he says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. So see, that's why obedience is so important, because again, that's the key to success. He said that's the only way you're going to have good success, the only way you're going to be prosperous, if you can be obedient to the word of God. And another thing you got to notice from there too, obedience is the key to receive God's promises. You know what I'm saying? All these promises that God makes to us, the only way you're going to get those promises, those promises going to come true, or you're going to be able to get the rewards from those promises, is about being obedient. Because you notice he said again, he said, be strong. He said, be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land which I swear unto their fathers to give them. I made them a promise that I was going to get them this land. I made them a promise I was going to get them this land, so I'm going to get them this land. But you have to be obedient. And that's what you got to understand. People always want to throw the promises of God up. God promised he going to do this, and God promised he going to do that, and he didn't do this and do that. But if you look at every promise God made, just like with that one right there, every promise God made, every time he made a promise to do something, there was always something that we had to do as well. It was never just, I'm going to give you this and you're going to be straight. You know what I'm saying? Just holler at me every now and again, we're going to be straight. No, it was always, if you do this, then I'll do this. When the Israelites came in, just like when he was just giving Joshua that charge, if you obey all my commands, if you obey my law, you're going to conquer this land. If you know what I'm saying, you do what I say, these people ain't going to be able to stand in front of you. If you follow my commands, you don't let the word come out of your mouth. That was the key to success. That was the key to being prosperous. So that's why obedience is important. That's why whenever I'm talking about obedience and when I have a go to point, because I really didn't want to take too long on this point, but at the same time, I can't help it, because you got to understand how important this is. That's one of, I've been giving you all these don't forgets. That's one of the main things you need to not forget. Don't forget how important obedience is. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it's the key to success. You know what I'm saying? It's the key to getting God's promises in your life. And this is another tool that's really even better than that. I know the getting the promises sound good and being successful sound good, but there's two more things that obedience does for you that I think is even better than that. And this is this. It says, the third one I got, obedience will make you friends with Jesus. It'll make you friends with Jesus. If you read over there in John chapter 15, verse 14, Jesus himself said, if you obey my commands, then I consider you my friend. And I don't know about y'all, but man, I would love to have a friend like Jesus. As I think about my grandkids was here this weekend, we was watching Aladdin, and they got this song, that one song, the genie, when they first ran to rub the lamp, he came out, he said, you never had a friend like me. You know what I'm saying? Genie, that was a fictional movie what the genie said it, but I'm telling you, Jesus is definitely that way with Jesus. I ain't never had a friend like him. Somebody that's always there for me, that knows my heart and loves me anyway, even with my imperfection. You will never be able to have a friend like Jesus. Not a man, not on this earth. You will never be able to have that. But if you be obedient, that's what Jesus said. He said, if you are obedient, if you obey my commands, then I consider you my friend. And I might be misquoting a little bit, but then look it up. It's John chapter 15, verse 14. And another thing Jesus said, there's another one. I said these two I think is even bigger than the success and the promises, receiving the promises. Another thing, obedience is the only way to show Jesus that you truly love him. You know what I'm saying? Over in John 14:15, he said, if you love me, then obey my commands. If you truly love me, obey my commands. So that's another thing obedience does. It makes you Jesus' friend, and it shows you that you truly love him. It shows him that you truly love him. So you got to understand, that's why, like I said, I didn't mean to take so long on this topic of obedience, but at the same time, it must be necessary because that's what the Spirit put on my heart. Because I really don't have a whole lot wrote down, but it's just stuff to start pouring out as I start going through it, because I understand how important this is. I understand how important it is, and I want y'all to understand that as well. You know what I'm saying? You have to be obedient. Again, obedience is not doing something that God said, but doing it your way. I'm talking about complete obedience. Not only doing what God said to do it with who he told you to do it with, do it at the time he told you to do it, and you know what I'm saying, and do it the way he told you to do it. That is true obedience. That's the obedience I'm talking about, because you would not have success. You know what I'm saying? You would not have a close friendship or a relationship with God, or you would not really even have love for God if you're not willing to be obedient to his commands. And again, complete obedience, not just, oh, well, God, I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? You should be happy I'm doing it. No, not only, Lord, am I doing it, I'm doing it the exact way you want me to do it. That's the kind of obedience I'm talking about. So number 13 in this lesson, don't forget to be obedient to his commands. Again, not just doing them the way you want to do them the way he said to do them when he said to do it with who he told you to do it, and do it the way he told you to do it. That's true obedience. Be completely obedient. And if you do that, I promise you, you will have that good success that it was talking about over in Joshua. So number 13, don't forget to be obedient to his commands. So then the next one, I told y'all, there's a lot in this one little paragraph here. That's why it's taking me so long. It's so much, and I don't want to speed through it because I got to unpack all this. So again, he says, now I'm going to go back through it again because it's still just in verse 14, but this is going to end up verse 14. The next point number 14 actually going to end up verse 14. So it said, now if you will fear and worship the Lord and listen to his voice, and if you do not rebel against the Lord's command, which is what we just stopped at, and then he said this, then he finished by saying this, he said, and if you and your king follow the Lord your God, then all will be well. So that's going to be number 14. Number 14 is another thing, don't forget. Don't forget to follow God and not man. Don't forget to follow God and not man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us, we want to have this relationship with God, and we hear somebody talking about God. Oh, well, he sounds good, so they start following. You know, you see that a lot, especially like the big churches. You know what I'm saying? The big mega churches. A lot of those big mega churches, they're not really there because they're following God. They're there because they're following a movement, or they're following a trend, or they following a certain pastor because he got so much charisma and all that. Don't follow man. Follow man. They really follow man, and they're not following God. You know what I'm saying? Because if you follow man, then the man have a tendency, and most likely it's going to happen. I'm just saying, man is going to let you down. If you follow man, man is going to let you down. I remember one of my favorite rap group, A-Ball and MJG, they had this song called Friend of Foe. And one of the lines in the song was like, I trust no man because man will let you down every time. You know what I'm saying? Man will let you down every time. I love y'all. I know some of y'all are here faithfully. I should have did this last night, but I'm here tonight, and y'all are still here. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all listening to me and appreciate y'all following me. But make sure you only follow me because I'm following the Lord, because you're trying to follow the Lord. Don't follow me because I'm Brother John. I know it might sound like I have my stuff together. I know I be bringing these lessons, these truths. It may seem like I have my stuff together, but I'm telling y'all, I don't. I'm not perfect at all. I still have lust that I have to deal with. I still have evil thoughts that I have to deal with. I still have things that I know I should be doing that I deal with. So, man, make sure you're not following me. Make sure the only reason why you follow me, because when I am on here, I'm bringing you truth that's helping you build your relationship with the Lord. You know what I'm saying? How you doing, Miss Alicia? It's all good. You know what I'm saying? Like I told Miss Tanya earlier, I better late than never. I appreciate you being here. I know it's not my normal night, so I got to take the blame for that. But I appreciate you being here. But again, don't follow me, man. Follow the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Follow God. So again, as long as that, again, if that man is leading you toward the Lord, like if I'm leading you toward the Lord, yes, continue to follow me. But if I go astray, don't go astray with me. You know what I'm saying? If I go astray, you know, as long as that man is leading toward the Lord, follow him. But if he goes astray, don't go with him. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that has gotten out of church because of something some man did to them, or some woman. I say man. When I say man, I want y'all to understand, because the Bible refers to humans as man. You know what I'm saying? It said man, son of man. I'm not excluding women. I know people get touchy about this stuff. But, you know, so I can't tell you how many people that I talk to. Y'all know I go soul winning every week. I'm always, going across the country, talking to people, whatever. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that no longer go to church because something that somebody did to them. Somebody that they looked up to that was supposed to be a godly person, and that person went astray, so they went astray. See, that lets me know that you weren't really following God. You were following that person. Now, I remember this one time I was in a trailer park down in Dixon, Tennessee, knocking on doors, and I came across this guy. It's been a while. It's been some years, a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But I came across this guy, and man, he was angry. He was upset at God. He was like, man, I don't do no church, none of that. I don't believe none of that. And and whenever somebody tell me they're atheist or pagan or whatever, I always like to ask them, like, what made you choose that route, kind of thing. So then this dude, I can tell he was upset with God for whatever reason, and I asked him, I'm like, man, what's up? Why the hostility toward God? Like, what's going on? What happened? And he was like, man, I had a granddad that was like a deacon in the church, and he was supposed to be this godly man, and he was a deacon in the church. And he I remember one time as a kid, I was asking him questions, some stuff I just didn't understand, didn't make sense to me. And he said, no, I was asking him a question, and he just slapped me in my face, told me just, the shut up kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Then he said, then I would see how he treated my grandmother. You know what I'm saying? He was a drinker. He was this. So this dude was in the church, he was all brother, whatever, so-and-so. But in his real life, he was a horrible person. And this young man saw that. So when he grew up, he didn't want nothing to do with God because this man here misrepresented God. So you see what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of men do. They bring and act like they're authentic, but in reality, they misrepresent God because they're not living the life. I was talking to my son earlier, and we talked about character. And I told him, I said, character, I said, a facade is when you do, stuff because people watching. That's not true character. I said, true character is if you do the same things, obey the same laws, the rules, and regulations that you do if nobody is watching. If nobody's forced you to do it, do you still behave a certain way? And there's certain people, they only behave a certain way because they got somebody. I know we were talking about like rehab. That's what it was. You know what I'm saying? And I got an older son. He had a drinking problem, so we was able to get him in rehab so he can hopefully get his life together. And and he's doing good. He really love the place he's at. And that's what we was talking about. He said, man, he's doing really good. And I was like, yeah, he's to do good now because he got people watching him. They drug test him, they alcohol test him, all that. I said the challenge is going to be, is he still going to be doing good once he get out of that rehab? I said that's where we see where his character is, and that's what started the conversation. Like, it's easy to do what you're supposed to do when you got people watching you and monitoring you and things like that. I said, but true character is what are you going to do when he's not, and that's what we was talking about. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you got to understand. The guy, he saw his granddad be his deacon and supposed to be this holy man in church, but then he come home drinking, and he's basically, the way the boy made it seem like he used to beat him down just because he had questions about God. When instead of he sitting him down and explaining the Bible to him and talking to him about it, he just beat him and told him, shut up, kind of thing. You being disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, he got out the church, and the guy, he wasn't saved. He said he wasn't saved, didn't want to be saved. You know what I'm saying? I met another guy, as an atheist. I've been working with this guy probably 6-7 years. I've been working with this guy, and we've become friends. Like, he got to where I go to his house, he invite me in, and we sit down, and I've been able to do some things for his house was destroyed in the flood that we had here, and I was able to get we had a group come down from Pennsylvania to rebuild houses, and they're gonna rebuild 20 houses, and I was able to get him on the list, and they rebuilt his house for him. So we become friends. You know what I'm saying? Over the years, we become friends. And we got close enough to where I finally asked him, why are you an atheist? Why do you believe, don't believe in God? And basically the same thing. He said he had a stepdad that was a deacon in a church and is supposed to be this holy roller. But when he was at home, he was drunk. He was beating on his mom, beating on the guy's mom, and beating on him and his brothers. And when he grew up, he's like, man, there can't be a God. If this guy represents God, then, and see, that's why I say, don't follow me. What up, Tay? That's my youngest son there. What's going on, bro? Glad you're here. I hope you're doing good over there. Mr. Hardbody. He's working in jail now, prison now. They call him Hardbody. I thought that was hilarious. I've been telling everybody about it. It's funny. But appreciate you being here. But again, that man misrepresented God. So that's why it's so important that you don't follow a man. You know what I'm saying? There's another lady I've come across, soul winning out in McKinsey. There was some apartments. And it's an older lady. And when I talk to her about God or going to church, because I always start off with, do you go to church? And she's like, no, I don't go to church. I had a bad experience in church, so I don't go. And I don't know what happened to this lady. I would love to find out. I've come across 3 times. And I would love that. I was hoping over the years, maybe her heart is softening, but she will not talk about it. I can't even begin to speculate what happened, but whatever it is, it's so bad that she no longer goes to church. So again, it's something that a person, when I say man again, including men and women, something a person did to her made her get out of church. So that shows me that she wasn't really following God. She was following a man. She was following a person. Because you following God, no matter what happens, you're going to keep following God. If, okay, this preacher messing up in this church, well, I'm going to lead this, I might lead this church, but I'm going to go to another church. I'm not going to leave church altogether. And that's what a lot of people do. They end up leaving church altogether. And see, the reason why people do this, you know what I'm saying? When I really thought about it and I prayed on it, I was putting this letter together, and it hit me. The reason why people do that, the reason why people use an excuse of some preacher messing up or something to get out of church is because a lot of people do this because they don't want to take accountability for their own relationship with the Lord. Think about it. You know what I'm saying? They can pour the fear. Oh, well, because that pastor was stealing money. That's why I got out the church. Because he's supposed to be the pastor, he's supposed to be leading me, and he was having sex with people's wives. So that's why I got out of church. See, they don't want to take accountability for their own relationship with God. Because you got to understand, you got to take accountability for your own relationship with God. Because notice what he said. I'm going to go back to what he said. He said, if you do not rebel against the Lord's commands, he said, and if you and your king follow the Lord your God, then all will be well. He didn't say the king follow the Lord and you follow the king. He said you and the king. And see, that's what you got to understand. If you're not following the Lord yourself, then you will come across somebody that's going to lead you astray. What up, Jimmy? Appreciate you being here, my brother. I think I was talking about you a little earlier. I don't know how long you've been here, but I brought you up a little earlier. But I'm glad you're here tonight, man. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate all y'all being here because this ain't my normal night. But again, you know, a lot of people, they do that. They don't want to take accountability, and they use the excuse that this person did me wrong. This man led me astray or whatever, and it's because they don't want to take accountability. You got this. That's why I say work out your own salvation. It's not saying you got to work to be saved. It's saying that you got to work on your relationship with the Lord, and most of us don't want to do that. We don't want to put that work in that it takes to really have that close relationship with the Lord. So we just let everybody else do it for us. So that's why we follow these men and go, oh man, he's a good guy. He's charismatic. You know what I'm saying? I like him. He got this. I'm just going to follow him. And then what happens when that man goes astray? Because he's human. You know what I'm saying? Like I told y'all, man, I know y'all might think I'm on here and I got my stuff together because I be bringing these fire lessons, but I'm telling you, I don't. I do not have my stuff together. I still got a long way to go. Maybe a little farther than you, maybe. You know what I'm saying? And that's me. I don't know. I don't know where you at. You don't know where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a little farther because I'm doing these lessons, you not, but I'm not that much farther. I'm nowhere near where I need to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm still working on myself every single day to get one. And that's why I say, don't follow me. You know what I'm saying? Just as long as I'm following Christ, then yes, if I'm leading you to Christ, if you watching me and the things I'm telling you is helping you build your relationship with God, it's helping you get close to God, it's opening your eyes, some things that you ain't been seeing, and giving you the want to have to go, yes, that's fine. But if I start going astray, if I start talking about some other stuff, if I start doing some stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing, man, stop following me. But don't stop following Christ. And see, that's what happens when you get wrapped up in man. If you don't say you only following God because Brother John is telling you to, and then when Brother John start following God, you start following God, then guess what? You weren't really following God. You was following Brother John. And that's what I'm trying to warn you against. Don't get caught up in that. Do not get caught up in that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, because when you do that, then you put your whole accountability on me. You know what I'm saying? So you want to be able to use me as an excuse when you step before God and God asks you, well, why don't you have this close relationship? Well, Brother John, and I'm going to let you know right now, that ain't going to work. You're not going to be able to, when you step before God going to want to know why any of y'all have kids, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. When you ask your kid, why did you do, well, so-and-so did this, or was that I didn't ask you about such and such. You know what I'm saying? I remember my kids, one of my rules in the house was Monday through Thursday, they couldn't go nowhere. Monday through Thursday, you know what I'm saying? Sunday night through Thursday night, they couldn't go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Other than church, activities, you know what I'm saying? It was just home and school because it was a school week. You know what I'm saying? And then, well, no, what you call mama, let them, well, that's what you call them mama. That ain't me. I don't care about what you call them. And that's what we want to do. We want somebody to point at and hold accountable for our lack of wanting to build our laziness and wanting to build our relationship with God. We depend on other people. We follow these men and expect them to build our relationship with God, when really we should take accountability for our relationship with the Lord as well. You see what I'm saying? That's what do. We have work to do. That's why he said, make sure you and your king. He didn't just say make sure the king follow the Lord and then you follow the king. You make sure you and your king. Most people don't read the Bible because they want me to get a Bible to them. They want the pastor to get a Bible to them. Y'all see, we've been doing, if y'all been following me, a lot of people that's here listen to me every week, we might make it through 3 verses. You know what I'm saying? We spend these lessons be 3 hours long and we might make it through 3 verses. There's no way I ever be able to get through the entire Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like I will eventually, if I live long enough, but it's going to be a while. You know what I'm saying? So if you waiting for me to get the Bible that you need, then guess what? You're never going to get enough. That's why you got to read on take accountability for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Don't like, well, Brother John didn't teach me enough Bible. No, Brother John shouldn't have to teach you the Bible. Now, I try to help you understand it a little bit more. I try to help you get deep, but you should read it for yourself. And see, that's what most people do. They don't want to read it for themselves. They want to point at me and say, well, I'm not giving them enough Bible. You know what I'm saying? Most people don't go soul with it because, again, they count on people like me to go. So the people that actually go, well, they'll take care of it. The people that take care of it, they I ain't got to go. You know what I'm saying? But Jesus said, you know what I'm saying, go out. He gave everybody that command. He just gave me that command. If you believe in Jesus, if you really are saved, you believe in him, you should be doing the same thing. So you got to understand, take accountability. Take accountability for your own relationship with the Lord. Don't point fingers at somebody, well, I got out. I don't go to church no more because I saw the preacher do it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. Oh, the preacher used to drink on the weekends, or the preacher. I had it. It was actually a split in my church, my home church, the church I used to go to, and I love the pastor. I was young to really understand it. But I've heard, bits and pieces of it. But it was a rumor that the pastor was like hooking up with some of the guys' wives. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how much truth was to it. I do not know. But I know there was at one point there was a rumor going on that he was doing it. So many people left the church. You know what I'm saying? So again, if you leaving the church because most people, what they do for the pastor is like the president. You know what I'm saying? They treat the pastor like a president. You know what I'm saying? What am I talking about? Because if you got any kind of common sense, you got any wisdom at all, you can obviously tell the president don't run this country. He don't do nothing. He's a figurehead. Because that guy, especially they got in office right now, hell, he probably even remember what he had for lunch yesterday. You know what I'm saying? He don't run this country. But he's a figurehead. He's somebody that we can point at and say, well, it's your fault that I'm not doing good. It's your fault that, I don't have money in my bank account. It's your fault that, that's all the president is. That's all the president. And we've made pastors that. When you get to follow men, that's what you do. Well, it's his fault that I don't have this close walk with God. It's his fault that I don't have the blessing of God in my life. He didn't teach me better. He didn't do this. He didn't do it. No, you got to take accountability for your own. You know what I'm saying? You got to take accountability for your own. Those men or women in your life, and I know I said men, but women, I'm trying to say women. I want to include you ladies. I'm talking about men and women. Those people in your life, they should not be responsible for your relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? They should not be responsible. You are responsible for your relationship with God. So again, if you out of church, if you don't go to church no more, or you don't have a close relationship with God no more, or you used to serve the Lord and you no longer do, it's because you're not taking accountability for your actions. And you know what I'm saying? If the reason why you're not doing those things is because somebody else did something to you, a man or woman did something to you that you didn't feel was right or it wasn't Christian-like or whatever, and you let that thing get you out of church. You let that game, like I said, if you want to leave a church, that's fine. That has happened. I can understand that. Man, this guy, you know what I'm saying? I've seen people do that too. I've seen people leave one church, they go to another. I've seen that happen. That's fine. Because it shows you that they was really trying to have a relationship with God. But if you get upset at the pastor or whatever, the minister or whatever, the song leader, the lady in the choir, whatever, and because of what she did or what she said or something you saw her doing, and you get so upset that you just leave church altogether, then that means you never was following God. You was following a man. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to get into that. You fall into that, you're going to be let down. So again, don't forget to follow God, not man. And that's why he told them, he said, if you and your king follow the Lord your God, then all will be well. So you got to do some work too. Take accountability for yourself. Stop blaming the pastors for your lack of knowledge of the Bible. You should be reading yourself. Stop blaming the pastors for your lack of closeness with the Lord. You should be working on getting close with the Lord yourself. Stop blaming the pastors. Take accountability for your life and stop following men. Follow God. So again, I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. It's an encouragement that y'all are here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling y'all don't come here. Come, but make sure that you're only here because I'm telling you what you need. I'm feeding you and I'm giving you what you need to feed your spirit so you can have a close relationship with God. Don't just be here because Brother John's so cool. I like the way his head shines when he's doing the lesson. You know what I'm saying? Don't be here for that. Come here because you know that I'm helping you with your relationship with God. But if you get to a point where I'm no longer helping you with your relationship with God, again, if I'm going astray, don't follow me. You know what I'm saying? Continue to follow God. Find you another podcast to listen to or another video to watch. But don't follow me astray. Continue to follow God. And if you stop having your relationship with God because somebody did, then again, you're not following God. You're following me, and that's bad for you. That's going to lead you down the road of destruction. Because again, man will let you down every single time. So number 14, don't forget to follow God. Don't forget to follow God. Don't forget to follow God. Hold on. What's up? I turned the page to good. Don't forget to follow God and not man. That's what it was. Follow God and not man. Again, don't let no man lead you astray, lead you away from your Lord. You know what I'm saying? If he's going the wrong way, let him go. But you stay focused on the Lord and find somewhere that somebody or someone that'll lead you down that path you need to go to. They had a relationship with the Lord. So that was number 14. So next verse, and I'm probably going to finish up with this one. This 8:17, I'm doing good, so we can keep our fingers crossed. So the next one, I'm trying to keep y'all not too long tonight, because I know it's not my normal night, and I want to throw your schedules off. So the finish up verse 15, that was verse 14. So verse 15, he says this. He said, but again, he said, if you and your king follow the Lord your God, then I will be well. And he said, then he gave him a warning. He said, but if you rebel against the Lord's commands and refuse to listen to him, then his hand will be heavy upon you as it was upon your ancestors. So that's right there. There's going to be a reference back there. Y'all remember number one, the very first point when I started this lesson, number one was don't forget you get what you ask for. You know what I'm saying? So that's what he's saying. If you stay obedient to the commands, if you follow my commands, you're going to have all these blessings. You're going to be protected. You're going to be safe. We're going to have a close relationship. You're going to be in my will. He said, but if you rebel against my commands, then you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems. So again, you get what you ask for. If you live in rebellion and your life starts falling apart, then you brought that on yourself. But you live in obedience and your life being blessed because of it, then you brought that on yourself as well. So that's a reference back to number one. I'm not going to preach that point. If you want to see that, go back. That was like, this is number 5. So that was like 6 weeks ago. You know, go scroll through my page and watch that. But this also going to bring us to point number 15. Number 15 is this. Don't forget to be wise enough to learn from the mistakes of others. Don't forget to be wise enough to learn from the mistakes of others. You know what I'm saying? What am I talking about here? You see the last line, he said, if you rebel against the Lord's command and refuse to listen to him, then his hand will be heavy upon you as it was upon your ancestors. In other words, this has happened before. This has happened before. This is not the first time they've been rebellious. You know what I'm saying? And of course, if you know your Bible, you know, matter of fact, you go back to the book of Judges, that's what it was. It was about rebellion. They was rebellion. They was caught up in this vicious cycle where, you know what I'm saying, the Lord would bless them. And then they eventually, y'all remember, matter of fact, I did a lesson, it was called The Vicious Cycle. I think it was like a 4-part series. And I talked about the vicious cycle. And it was when I was going through Judges. And Judges was just a constant vicious cycle. Every chapter, you know, it starts off, the Lord will bless. It started off, they was blessed. And then they eventually, because they were so blessed, they started getting apathetic. I believe I'm saying that right. And basically no longer caring about the Lord and his commands and doing the things the Lord wanted them to do. And then eventually, because of that, they got prideful. And because they pride, they end up being destroyed. And the Lord would send somebody in to punish them, basically to conquer them. And then, you know what I'm saying, they would be conquered or destroyed for a certain amount of years. And then they would finally humble themselves, call out to the Lord, and the Lord would bless them again. And then it started back over. It just kept on going, this vicious cycle. You know what I'm saying? So don't forget to be wise enough to learn from the mistakes of others. In other words, history shouldn't repeat itself. We hear it all the time. History repeat itself. But it really shouldn't repeat. History shouldn't repeat itself. Not the bad stuff, at least. The good stuff, yes, because you learn. You know what I'm saying? You learn, hey, this is good. You know what I'm saying? If this is good, so I'm going to keep doing this. But when you look at the bad stuff, history shouldn't repeat itself. But it does repeat itself because we don't learn. You know what I'm saying? Because we never learn. We never learn from our mistakes. We never learn from the mistakes in the past, and we keep on doing the same thing. And like I said, the book of Judges was a perfect example of this. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the lives of, I don't want to just say black people. I don't want to exclude like white people don't have it hard as well, or Mexicans as well. But often when we talk about, black people, black society, black people or whatever, we talk about their heritage, we talk about like generational curses. And again, it happens to everybody. It happens to white people, Mexicans as well. But we talk about these generational curses that always seem to come up. Why? Because nobody's learning. Nobody's learning from their mistakes. They keep doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? When I look at my family, and the history of my family and where my family's at now, you know what I'm saying? I'm completely different from my family. Now, it was some members of my family, not my entire family, but a vast majority. I would say, you know what I'm saying, of all the family that I know, maybe 20% of us are, decent, upstanding citizens, so to speak. But, you know what I'm saying, the ones that I was raised up around, the ones that I lived around, they was always in some aspect of some kind of sin. You know what I'm saying? If y'all heard my testimony, y'all know I lived around hustlers. I lived around drug dealers. I lived around killers. You know what I'm saying? Rapists, murderers. I mean, that was what I was raised by. I told y'all before, I always felt like I was sheep raised by wolves, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But when I looked at my family live and I looked at all the stuff that they was going through because they was doing the things they was doing, that's what kept me. I learned from them. I didn't have, you know what I'm saying? When I saw my cousin in and out of jail for selling dope, I had a cousin that he was so bad, and he's older now. He was so bad. He got in so much trouble in our old neighborhood that they actually, this is back in Memphis, they labeled him a menace to the neighborhood, and he was actually bad. I've never heard that happen before. But they labeled him a menace to the neighborhood, and they banned him from our neighborhood. He couldn't move back over where he stayed in North Memphis. He couldn't even move back over. He can't even move back over there to this day. They literally banned him from the neighborhood. That's how bad he was, because he was always into some stuff. He always had some stuff going. You know what I'm saying? So when I looked at my family and the people from my neighborhood, the drug dealers and the gangbangs and all that, and all the kind of people that I was raised up around, you know what I'm saying? I saw, you know what I'm saying, they saw the fun and the good time they were having, but I always saw past that. I always saw how these people was miserable. I saw how they was always struggling, how they always was in trouble. They was always running from the law. I saw how they didn't really have peace in their life. Why? Because they never learned. You know what I'm saying? So I learned from that mistake. So, and even though I did end up still selling drugs later, I didn't do what they did. I didn't go as bad out the deep end. And I was just young and dumb and did some stupid stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's why when the guy made me an officer at code, I really paused on it, because like I said, I sold the little stuff, but the big stuff, I knew that was bad. That was actual trouble. And that's why I had to ask the Lord to get me out of that situation, which I'm glad he did. You know what I'm saying? But the majority of stuff that I did, I was able to avoid jail and prison, because I've seen so many of my relatives, I've seen so many of my friends in and out of prison, and I've seen how miserable they've been because of that. You know what I'm saying? My mom and dad was both addicted to crack. That's why I never smoked crack. You know what I'm saying? I saw what happened to them and how crack took them down. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm not a drinker, because I had an uncle that was an alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? Loved this guy to death, man. And it was so crazy. You know what I'm saying? When he was sober, the nicest, y'all might have heard me talk about him before, but when he was sober, he was the nicest guy you would ever meet in your life. I'm talking literally wouldn't hurt a fly. I mean, just kind, gentle soul. But on the reverse, when he was drunk, he was straight evil. I mean, like, he would come in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? We in the bed sleep. We kids. We in the bed sleep. Got to get up for school in a couple of hours, and he would come in a drunken stupor and just curse everybody out. He would curse my grandmama out, have her in tears. You know what I'm saying? He cursed us out, called us all kind of punks and sissies, and try to fight. I mean, it was bad. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, I saw what it did to him, and he died lonely. You know what I'm saying? I remember he had a son by this girl that lived about a block away from her, and he was so heartbroken because he ended up losing her because of the drinking, and he never was able to get her back. Good woman too. She really good. I love her to death. Still call her auntie to this day. You know what I'm saying? Good woman. You know what I'm saying? But he lost her, and I saw how hurt he was because he lost that woman, and he never could get her back because of the drinking. So that's why I've never been a drinker. Like, even when I was in college, I drank a little bit, but it was more social drinking. I might have a beer or two just because, like, we was out at a party and everybody else was doing the kind of thing. Again, like I told y'all, I'm young and dumb too. I didn't always have it together, but I never became an alcoholic because I never got heavy into drink. I never really drunk liquor. I can probably count on one hand the amount of time I've ever taken a shot. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just one of my thing. Because again, I saw what it did to my uncle. I saw how the drugs ravaged my family. I saw what it did to my mom. I saw my mom used to be a beautiful, hard-working lady. Beautiful, hard-working lady. I mean, I love my mom to death up until she got on that stuff, man. I mean, beautiful, hard-working, independent woman. You know what I'm saying? Took care of me and my brother. But when she got on that stuff, man, she just lost everything. She lost everything. So me seeing them and seeing what they was going through, I don't want that in my life. So I learned from them instead of, you know what I'm saying, having to go through it and see, well, maybe I can smoke crack and get away with it. No, I learned from them. You know what I'm saying? I learned from my mistakes. Learn from your past. I'm not saying dwell on your past, but at least learn from it. Take the lessons that when you did that thing you weren't supposed to be doing and something went bad, take the lessons from it. I remember, I think I might have told y'all about this. Yeah, I did tell y'all the story. I think I shared the story with y'all last week. But I got caught stealing when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? I used to steal all the time. I used to steal candy and stuff because, you know what I'm saying, like we said, we was in the hood, we was broke. So, you know, my grandma, she was on like SSI and disability and she got food stamps and stuff like that. But it was like 7 of us in the house. So, I mean, she could provide that food, the little food that she could provide. But if we wanted like sweets and stuff like that, you had to get on your own. You know what I'm saying? This was before I was old enough to really work. So I used to just go steal it. And I never forget. And I think, like I said, I think I told y'all the story last week, but if y'all didn't watch it last week, I never forget. I got in trouble. I had this day, I was hanging with this friend of mine. And we had been stealing. I had been stealing all day. And this guy, he wanted a 6-pack of Reese's candy. He's like, man, steal these Reese's for me. And I'm like, nah, bro, I can't do it. I've been stealing all day. I think, something just told me, like, man, you need to just, go on, lay it down. I had been stealing stuff all day. I had been going back and forth from like the dollar store and Kroger's, and we had like a 7-Eleven in the area, right there by Hertzville Project, and I had been stealing all day. And so I said, man, you want it? Here you go. Here go your coat. You do it yourself. And he put the coat on, and it was just way too big for him. I mean, it wasn't no way he gonna be stealing. Like, all right, man, give me the coat. And I got the coat, and I put it on, and we got 6 packs of Reese's, and I did my usual thing, and I walked down the aisle, stuck it in my coat, and I didn't realize the aisle was on because I was dumb as all get out. I was a dumb kid because I was in the 6th grade when this happened. Never forget it. But the aisle was on. You know how it was right below the office. And the office have those mirrors where it's a mirror, but you can see through it. And the whole time, the guy, it was a police officer and I guess the store manager watching me. Didn't even realize it. You know what I'm saying? So they were sitting there waiting for me to put the candy in my coat. And I remember I put the candy in my coat and I was walking toward the door. And I never forget the police officer walked up behind me and grabbed me by the back of my neck. He said, come on, son, I'm about to take you somewhere to change your wicked ways. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget that. That is vivid. I mean, that happened when I was in 6th grade, but I'll never forget it because, man, I was so scared. I was so terrified. But it's funny, he said that. He said, I'm going to take you somewhere that's going to change your wicked ways. And he ended up taking me down to juvenile. I went to juvenile to book myself, and my grandma had to come get me. But guess what? That was the last time I stole anything. You see what I'm saying? That was the last time I stole it. After that, I was done because I learned. I learned from the past. I saw where I was going to end up. If I stayed on that path, where I was going to end up at. And see, so that's what we got to do, man. But again, I had to go through it myself. I learned from myself, but be wiser than that. You know what I'm saying? Be wise, learn from others. The Bible, there's 3 type of people that the Bible talks about. It talks about foolish people, it talks about simple people, and it talks about wise. It said everybody, and if you watch this video, you are in one of those categories. Either you're foolish, either you're simple, or you're wise. That's what the Bible says. There's the 3 type of people, human beings there are. Foolish people are people that never learn. You don't want to be foolish. There are people that never learn. When you see these guys that come to get in jail or get in trouble, going back and forth to jail, they get out of jail to go right back in for the same thing. Those are foolish people. They never learn. You know what I'm saying? And then you got simple people. Simple people will be somebody like my middle son. I got a middle son that has autism. He's very intelligent, but he's autistic. He's autistic, so he's very intelligent as far as books and things of that nature, but he don't have any wisdom as far as like social stuff. You know what I'm saying? So he's simple. So it's not that he's rebellious. He just really don't understand. Like he's the first one. God shows me how he's the only child I got that like whenever I'm dealing with him, I actually have to, when I tell him to do something, I actually have to explain it. Which it took me a while to get that. I didn't understand it because, like I said, I was raised old school. I say you do it. Like I was talking about in the first point, just be obedient. But with him, because it's autism, he has to understand why. Because to him, it don't really make sense. And then it's, again, one of his little things or whatever. But him, that's what I'm talking. It's simple. And I learned like, because I used to tell him to do stuff and he wouldn't do it. And I finally learned like, hey, he's not saying why out of rebellion. He was saying why because he really don't understand why this should be done, why I should do it this way instead of doing this way, because it seemed like it'd be easier or better this way. So when I learned that, like, if I just sit down and kind of explain it to him, then, you know what I'm saying, he does, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then he would do it. No problem out of it. You know what I'm saying? So him, that's simple. He just really don't get it. He don't understand. You know what I'm saying? I know one of the guys from my ministry, he has mental retardation. You know what I'm saying? I think he's like 30-something. You know what I'm saying? Simple. You know, they just don't really understand, not being rebellious. Simple. But so you got the foolish, which they know full well what they're doing and they keep doing it. You got simple where they don't really know what they're doing. They don't really understand it. But then you got wise. And what make people wise is not only having the ability to learn from your own mistakes, you have the ability to learn from the mistakes of others. Like I said, I didn't do crack because my mom did crack. I understand, Miss Tanya. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? I posted on if you want to catch the rest of it. You know what I'm saying? You can catch it on my page. I appreciate you being here tonight. I know it's not a normal night, so thank you for being here. So again, being wise is learn from others. I don't smoke crack because my mom and dad smoked crack. I didn't drink because my uncle drank. That's what I'm talking about. That's being wise, and we can't forget to do that. Learn, and that's what he was telling. He said, look, you know what I'm saying? If you rebel, then I'm going to be on you. You saw what your ancestors went through. You know what I'm saying? You saw how all the oppression that they had to suffer through. You saw, you know what I'm saying, all the loss that they took. You know what I'm saying? You saw all the freedoms that they lost. You saw the peace that they lost. You know what I'm saying? You saw all that. So don't be like them. You know what I'm saying? Learn from them and don't be like them. And if you do that, it'll make you wise. You know what I'm saying? But again, we don't do it. A lot of times we fall into the same mistake. We fall, like I said, history really shouldn't repeat itself. It shouldn't. If you learn from it, you shouldn't repeat the same mistakes of the past. But yet you see we still making the same mistakes of the past because people don't learn. You know what I'm saying? But if you wise, you'll learn. I think about one of my favorite stories of the Bible where a guy, he learned real quick. It was a story about Elijah. Yeah, I remember there was a drought in the land. I ain't going to belabor the story. There was a drought in the land. At the time, it hadn't rained for like 3 years or something. And then the Lord finally told Elijah to appear to the king and go talk to the king or whatever. So the king sent some soldiers to know when Elijah showed himself, because he had been hiding for like 3 years. The Lord had hid him for like 3 years. And when he finally showed himself, the king told him some men to go get him. You know what I'm saying? He said, go get Elijah. So I think it was like a guy in like either 25 or 50 men, you know what I'm saying? But he was like basically, so the first, commander went up and like, man of God, the king demand that you come with us. And Elijah was like, well, if I'm really a man of God, you know what I'm saying? If I'm really a man of God, may God send fire down and destroy you and your men. You know what I'm saying? Just when he said that, fire came down from heaven, burnt him and all his 50 men. I think it was 50. I'm pretty sure it was 50. Burnt him and all his 50 men up. So when that happened, the king heard about it. He sent out another detachment. So he sent out a second commander with another 50 men. And he came up the same way. He said, man of God, the king, requests that you come with us. And Elijah said, if I'm really a man of God, then may fire come down from heaven and destroy you and all your men. And then once again, the fire came down from heaven, destroy him and all his men. So when the king heard that, he sent out a third detachment. You know what I'm saying? So he sent out the third commander. But this time, you read it out that the third guy, he went over and said, oh, man of God, please don't destroy me. Please, I'm just here doing what the king told me to do, man. Like, please don't destroy me. Please. You know what I'm saying? I'm just here to do what I'm just obeying the commands of the king. And then when it happened, he humbled himself. He learned from the first two. And it says, if you read it, it says Elijah, the Lord spoke to Elijah, told him, go ahead and go with him. And he ended up going with that dude. So that dude was able to save his life and the life of his men because he learned from the mistakes of the first two captains. See what I'm saying? That's what your life would be, man. When stuff happens to you and when it happens around you, it's God trying to show you, man, this thing is not good. You know what I'm saying? Another situation in the Bible where somebody didn't learn from the past. There was y'all know King Nebuchadnezzar. He was one of the kings that ended up capturing Judah and taking the people out of Judah because they had sinned against the Lord. So, you know what I'm saying? And so at one point, he was so arrogant because he was the one, matter of fact, he's the one I talked about last week, He was the one that made the gold statue that was 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide or whatever. I can't remember the dimensions of it or whatever. And he wanted the 3 boys to worship the statue. That was him. You know what I'm saying? So he had got arrogant. At one point, he had got so arrogant to where the Lord took his throne from him and basically took his mind from him and made him like an animal. So he, you know what I'm saying, went from being king to being like an animal living in the woods for like a certain amount of time. And then eventually, once he humbled himself, the Lord brought him back. You know what I'm saying? So after he passed on, his son, he had a son named Belshazzar, and his son took over. And his son ended up being arrogant. And he had a night when he had this party, and there was all kind of golden cups and stuff from when Nebuchadnezzar had conquered Judah that they took out of the temple. And it was the stuff that the Israelites would use to worship the Lord in. You know what I'm saying? So this man was so arrogant that him and his concubines and all his friends was drinking out of these cups that used to be used to worship the Lord. And not only was they drinking out the Lord's cups, they was praising their God, praising idols. So while he was sitting there drinking out a cup, it said a hand came, just some fingers. There wasn't even a whole body, just some fingers. And he saw some fingers, and it was writing on the wall. It was the writing. Saying y'all know the writing on the wall. If y'all heard, I'm pretty sure y'all heard this story. But that's what happened. He was writing on the wall. So he sent all and it was the language wasn't a regular language. So he sent all his diviners and all his magicians and all of them to try to get him to translate what the words was, and nobody could do it. So finally he sent out, to Daniel, and Daniel came and translated. If you know the story, when Daniel came in, he got on. He's like, you know what I'm saying? He kind of gave a history lesson. He said, now you know what your daddy did, and you know how he didn't humble himself, and because he didn't humble himself, the Lord, took his mind away from him and made him an animal for, I think it was like 70 years or something like that. I can't remember. It says a period of the way, the time, they don't really say the time, but he basically like, you know what happened to your dad. I know you heard the story, and yet you sit here doing the same thing, and yet he said your dad humbled himself, but you didn't humble yourself. And he said, because of that, the Lord is going to basically, what the writing on the wall is saying, that the Lord is going to take your kingdom from you and you're going to be dead. And what ended up happening, that he died that very night. And then he lost his kingdom the very next day, his kingdom was gone. And I don't know if they would just happen to be getting ready to conquer the kingdom or what, but that same night he died and somebody else took over his kingdom. Why? Because he didn't learn from the past. He didn't learn from what his daddy did. You see what I'm saying? If he saw what happened to his daddy, he would have knew that was the wrong thing to do. So you got to see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You got to understand, we got to learn from the past. Because if not, we're doomed to make the same mistakes and we're going to go down the path of destruction. When I look at, how we're flirting with communism these days, it's insane. If you look at every country that has ever been under communism or, tried communism, it's never worked. It's never worked, but yet that we're pushing for it and we're pushing toward it in America, which I thought would never happen, but we are. Why? Because we haven't learned from the past. You know what I'm saying? We look at the whole, the homosexual transgender movement, the legalization, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? We look at that and people don't learn. There's 2 nations in the Bible that was destroyed and homosexuality was directly related to it. You know what I'm saying? We think of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, I want y'all to understand, I'm not ignorant of the Bible. The Lord didn't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of the homosexuality, but it was the straw that broke the camel's back. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because they was basically like America is today. People was lazy, they had too much time on their hand, and they really didn't care about helping the poor out. You know what I'm saying? If you read over in Ezekiel, I think it's 1650, Ezekiel chapter 16 verses 59, somewhere in there. It gives the reason why he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, but it wasn't until the men came and tried to have sex with the angel that the Lord, all right, that's enough. You know what I'm saying? That's enough. You know what I'm saying? And so we see that, and then there was another story where there was this Israelite guy that was traveling, and he stopped in this certain town, Benjamin, and they ended up raping. He was traveling with his concubine, and they ended up, they didn't have a place to stay, so they ended up staying with this old man. And the men from the town came and surrounded the old man's house and told them to, send out the guy so they can have sex with him. Try to, have sex with another man kind of thing. And, of course, the old man was, begging them not to do it. And what the man did, he ended up pushing his concubine out the door, and they took her and raped her all night. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, they raped her to death. And then the next day, when the man got up and saw she was laying there dead, he took her back home, cut her body up, and sent a piece of her body to each of the 12 tribes. And then, long story short, they ended up getting together, going to war with Benjamin, and they pretty much destroyed the whole nation. I think they destroyed the whole nation except for like 256 million or something like that. So we got 2 instances where two nations, one was completely wiped out, the other was almost wiped out, completely related to like some kind of homosexual activity, and we still don't learn. We legalize. We give them a whole month to celebrate it. If you do it, you do it. You know what I'm saying? It's a sin just like my sin. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you're wrong or you're going to go to hell, because that's not what I'm saying. But we should be celebrating open rebellion. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't have a whole month where they celebrate a different day of perverseness. That's insane. You know what I'm saying? And again, nations was destroyed because of it, and we still haven't learned. You see what I'm saying? We look at Samson. We look at the life of Samson. Samson had 4 different times to get away from Delilah. It was 4 different times he put her to the test, and she failed the test each time. No, it was 3, and then the 4th time she got him, I believe. And so they had 3 times the seed that this lady was trying to kill him and destroy him, and yet he kept messing with her. And what ended up happening? He ended up being destroyed. He ended up in prison with both of his eyes gouged out, and then died being surrounded by his enemies. You know what I'm saying? Died in a violent death, surrounded by his enemies. Why? Because he didn't learn. He had 3 opportunities to get away from that girl, and he kept on messing with her. You know what I'm saying? She ended up destroying him. You know what I'm saying? Look at Aaron and Miriam, actual Korah. You remember there was a situation over in the book of Numbers where Aaron and Miriam started feeling like, well, we're in the royal priest line too. Why is Moses getting all the glory, so to speak? You know what I'm saying? We should be able to talk to God as well. And they start kind of murmuring against Moses. And so what ended up happening was the Lord struck Miriam, which is Aaron and Moses' sister, with leprosy. And she had leprosy for 7 days and had to be kicked out of the camp. And then after the 7 days, because Moses interceded for her, the Lord ended up bringing her, after the 7 days, he ended up bringing her back. He cleansed her, and she was able to come back into the camp. And then not even 3-4 chapters later, it happened again. This guy named Korah led a rebellion against Moses. Why is Moses and Aaron, you know what I'm saying? The Lord had already established them as the priests. You know what I'm saying? He already established them as his people, and yet they started murmuring against Moses and Aaron. You know what I'm saying? Not even a little bit after what happened with Miriam. If that was me, I would have saw what the Lord did with Miriam and Aaron, be like, you know what? I want no parts of this. But these people didn't learn. So, you know what I'm saying? So they went out and started mumbling. It was Korah, and I think it was like 250 other people. So so Moses, I'll tell y'all what, God will show who's really his people. You know, burn some incense in front of the temple, the tabernacle, and I'm gonna burn mine and make my sacrifices, and we're gonna see who the Lord answers to. And what ended up happening, long story short, because I said I wanted to keep it short for y'all tonight, but I don't think I'm gonna keep that promise. But long story short, what ended up happening, they went and they burnt the incense in front of the tabernacle, and it said the ground opened up and swallowed them whole, swallowed them all. Matter of fact, it said they went down to the pit. So it sounded like they went to hell. If you look at the interpretation of it, it says that, you know what I'm saying, they was all standing there burning the incense, and all of a sudden the ground opened. Matter of fact, Moses told him, he said, you know what I'm saying, if I'm not for the Lord, then nothing happened. He said, but I am for the Lord, and y'all in the wrong, then made the Lord do something that's never happened before. Made the ground open up and swallow all of y'all whole. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what happened. Said the ground opened up, swallowed all of them, and then it closed back up on top of them. Why? Because they didn't learn. They should have saw what happened with Miriam and Aaron a little bit before, and knew that Moses was God's chosen person, and they shouldn't be complaining about him. You see what I'm saying? So again, that's why the past always repeats itself, because we never learn. So why do we never learn? Why is it so hard to learn from our past and just look at past mistakes and not make those same mistakes? And the reason why is because we're arrogant. We're arrogant, and that's what it is. It's an arrogance there. You know what I'm saying? We're not humble enough to learn, because we look at the past mistakes like, oh, well, only reason why they failed at it because they did it like this. You know what I'm saying? If it was me, I'd do it like this. I can do it better. You know what I'm saying? I can get away with it. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? They did it this way, but I'm going to do it that way. No, you got to understand, nobody is above the law. You know what I'm saying? Nobody, there's written rules. This is something I've taught my kids before. There's written rules. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it might feel like, because God really blesses my life. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's not because I'm not perfect, not because I'm perfect, nothing like that. It's strictly because of God's grace. I'll say that first. It's not because I'm just awesome. No, it's God's grace. He's really blessed me. And sometimes, man, it feels like, man, like I can do no wrong. Like, I ain't gonna lie, it feels like that. But I'm not dumb enough to actually believe that. I know that if I get out of line, if I do some stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing, if I go somewhere I'm not supposed to be going, if I say some stuff I'm not supposed to be saying, it's going to come, the hammer going to come down on me. And that's what you got to understand. Now I tell my kids, like, nobody's above the law. Yes, some people have more favor than others. Some people seem to be able to get away with more than others can. Like, but in the reality, everybody's held to the same standard, though. You know what I'm saying? You can't go out here and do whatever you want to do and live the way you want to live and not expect something to happen. You know what I'm saying? But see, that's why we never learn, because we think, oh, well, it only happens to them, because that's why I don't understand. Like, how do we have new crackheads? Like, how do we have new heroin addicts? How do we have new meth heads? Can you not see what it's doing to people's lives? But, oh man, it ain't gonna happen to me. That's them because they was weak. They was weak. You know what I'm saying? They doing it because they was weak. It ain't gonna happen to me. I got more self-control. No, if you smoke it, the same thing gonna happen to you that happened to them. If you snort the coke or milk, whatever, the same thing that's happening to them is gonna happen to you, because nobody's above it. And see, you know what I'm saying? So that's why, again, I just learned from other mistakes. You know, again, you know, look at your past. That's the purpose of the past. The purpose of your past is not dwell in the past. I'm not saying dwell in the past and never take no chance. Oh, well, in the past, you know what I'm saying, that happened. So no, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying learn from your past. When you've done things and it's turned out bad, no, it's going to turn out bad. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's a difference between things that's turning out bad and just taking some risks. You can take some risks. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But when you know something's bona fide, that, hey, that's bad juju, I'm not going to mess with that. You shouldn't mess with that. Don't mess with that. Like I said, there is no doubt in my mind that if I smoke crack, my life, I'm going to lose everything and my life is going to be ruined. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to go there. If I drink alcohol and I become an alcoholic, everything is going to be ruined. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my ministry. I'm going to lose everything. So I'm not going to go there. See what I'm saying? So look at the lives of others. Don't just depend on your ability. You know what I'm saying? Don't think you're so arrogant that, oh, I'm just going to make it through. Look at the lives of others. Learn from the people around you. Be wise. And that's what I want y'all to do. That's why I do these lessons. I try to help y'all have wisdom so y'all can be wise. Be wise. You know what I'm saying? Learn from the mistakes of others. Don't make the mistake yourself. Don't go through the pain and the trauma and the drama yourself. Learn from others. If you see it happen to others and others did it and didn't turn out good, then you don't need to do it. Learn from them. Learn from their mistakes. And if you do that, then you'll be wise and you won't be, you know what I'm saying? You won't be simple. You won't be foolish. And again, I'm not saying dwell in the past. You know what I'm saying? Take the past, look at it, look at the good and the bad, stay away from the bad, and use the good to continue to elevate yourself. So, but don't dwell in the past. Don't let your past, so many people that let their past keep them from being elevated. It keep them from doing things. They let their past hold them down. And that's not what I'm saying. I don't want your past to hold you down, but I do want you to learn from the mistakes of the past. I do want you to learn from the mistakes of others in the past, so that way you won't make those same mistakes, and history won't keep repeating itself, and that way you can be considered to be wise. So that's it, y'all. I'm done. I gave you a couple of minutes early, but about the same, you know what I'm saying? But in reality, if y'all sit here and watch this video and you actually thought you're going to get out of here early, then that goes to my point number 15. You didn't learn from the past. I always say that, and it never works out. I try, y'all. I do try, but it never works out. So you're just being childish if you thought we were going to get out of here early. A little earlier than normal, you know what I'm saying? About the same average time. I didn't think it was going to go that long. I didn't write down a lot of notes, but obviously the Holy Spirit has something a little bit more planned for y'all than I did. You know what I'm saying? I'm always going to follow the Spirit and do what the Spirit tells me to do. But I hope this helped you. I hope this was a good lesson. I hope it helped you with these points. Like I said, number 13, that's the key. You know what I'm saying? Number 13, make sure, let me go back, because obviously I can't read. Number 13, don't forget to be obedient to his commands. Number 14 is don't forget to follow God and not man. Don't fall in that trap. And of course, number 15, don't forget to be wise enough to learn from the mistakes of others. That's going to be it for tonight. I'm going to stop there. And of course, God willing, next week, I'll be back again. Should be back on Monday. Yeah, we'll be back. We shouldn't have no problem Monday, because next Monday is the holiday, it's Labor Day. So I know y'all gonna probably be doing the barbecuing and all that. But if you ain't too full and you can get the itis, then Lord willing, I will be back here next Monday, 7 o'clock, and we'll go ahead with the next part. Maybe get through a couple more verses over here in Samuel and get on to continue on through this lesson, line upon line, precept upon precept. But of course, as always, if there's anything in particular you would like me to talk about, or any certain story or a lesson I haven't covered yet that's really just on your heart, please inbox me and let me know. I'll see if I can work it into my lesson plans. I can definitely work it in. You just got to let me know. Keep sharing the videos, telling other people about the videos as well. You know what I'm saying? So this ministry can continue to grow, but not only that, just so people can continue to hear this. So hopefully they can get the wisdom they need so they have that close relationship with God as well. Of course, if you're not sure about your salvation, watch this video. They didn't really talk about salvation much tonight, but if you watch this video and you're not 100% sure that if you die today, you just go to heaven, please, please, please do not hesitate. Reach out to me. Let me know. I will schedule some time with you so I can go to Gospel Message with you. Or if you think I talk too much and you want to talk to somebody else, that's fine. I'll arrange it. But that's the most important decision you'll make, and I will do everything I can to help you make that decision. And of course, if you need any kind of spiritual counseling, got any kind of questions or anything like that, reach out to me and let me know. And I will also set up some time so I can go over and just share whatever wisdom the Lord has given me, share with you so you can have that closer walk with Him as well. And as always, if you want to go back, and I know I mentioned a couple of my older videos today, the best way to do it is to go to my YouTube page, because on my Facebook, it's just you have to stroll through so much stuff and things that other posts is not relevant to the videos and things like that. So the best thing to do, go to my YouTube page, youtube.com, go to youtube.com, type in God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries, type it in just like that with a space between each one, and it will take you to my channel. Make sure you subscribe so every time I post a video, you can see it. But if you just like watching me on Facebook, that's fine as well. But either way, same stuff. So just a way that you can access it easier. Go there, subscribe, whatever you can, so that way you can catch stuff. And it is updated. I know last week I forgot to update it. So, but all my current ones, except for the one tonight, of course, I'll try to get the one from the night on this Sunday. But all of my videos are current on there. Everything I've done so far is on there, and y'all go have at it. There's plenty of time. You got the long rides or long periods of work, and you want to hear some good word, just go there, man, and just have at it. So with that being said, thank y'all for joining me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and pray, and I'm going to get out of here. Dear Lord Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us. Thank you for this word. Again, I didn't really plan on it being normal time. I was hoping to be done about 20, 30 minutes ago, but you know, your spirit took over and I just went with it. But I know it was because of that first point. But at the same time, Lord, that's so important. People, that's the key. There are several keys to being successful in life, but that is the main one. It's all about being obedient to your word, getting into your word, understanding your word, studying your word, reading your word for ourselves, and following your word. That is the key, Lord. And I pray that people were able to see that tonight as we went through this lesson, Lord. Thank you for everybody that was here. I know it's not my normal night, so I thank you for that people were. I was expecting not to have anybody, but those that did show up, I thank you for hanging in there as long as you could. That's a blessing. But I pray, Lord, that you just let these words that were spoken here tonight touch their hearts. If there's something that they're doing that they need to stop doing, or something they're not doing that they need to start doing, I pray you bring them under conviction about that thing, Lord, and give them the willingness to follow your commands as we talked about here tonight, so they can do those things that will truly be able to please you and be able to use their lives so to honor and glorify your holy name, Lord. Just watch over us all, watch over this country, Lord, as we're going through the things that we're going through. Turn our hearts back to you. Help us see how important it is to get back on the foundation of your word that this country will start upon before it's too late that we go past that point of no return and we lose all your grace and mercy upon our lives. Help us see how important it is for our future generations to do the same, Lord, to be able to do the same, and they won't do it unless we do it. You know what I'm saying? It starts with leadership, so we pray you give our leaders the wisdom to make the right rules and regulations that allow us to worship you freely, and we pray that you will turn their hearts back to you so they can lead this country back in the right direction, so we can once again truly be a nation under you, Lord. Just watch over me and my family in this ministry. Continue to use us in a mighty way. Keep us from being weary and well-doing, Lord, and just continue to watch over us, bless us and guide us, and use this ministry, use my family, use my ministry members in a mighty way to do our part to honor and glorify your name and actually build your kingdom. And we just pray, Lord, for the day that the world as a whole, we will humble ourselves, pray, seek your face, and turn from our wicked ways, so you may hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our lands. Watch over us as we finish up this night. Be with all those that serve, all those in the military, law enforcement, and rescue services. Just continue to be a wall of protection around them. Keep them safe and protected while they're out serving, Lord. And just keep your hand upon them and help them see no matter how far away from home they are, they're never too far away from you. Keep them safe and protected as they do this honorable thing of protecting others. And just watch over us all. Help us all give our hearts back to you, so we may honor and glorify you with our lives once again. Thank you so much for this lesson. Thank you for this time in your word. Thank you for your word. And thank you for using a wretch like me to do this work that you have me to do. We love you so much. Thank you for all you've done and given. And ask you to keep us safe throughout the night and strengthen us until we're able to gather here once again to honor and glorify your name and go through your word. We love you and thank you for everything. Say this prayer in your wonderful son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Appreciate y'all for hanging in there, man. Appreciate y'all hanging in there. Chris, thank you for being here, my brother, and whoever else. I can only see Chris, but I'm pretty sure there's others there. I don't know why this thing, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But I appreciate everybody that was here tonight. Again, I apologize for moving the nights, but I thank y'all for being able to make it here anyway. And as always, man, I love you guys. I continue to pray for y'all. I continue to pray for me. I ask y'all to continue to pray for me. And remember to always watch your back and pray. So Lord willing, I'll see y'all next Monday at 7 o'clock. Until then, I love you all. Continue to pray. Peace.